Hello, Shalom and Charete YouTube. This is PhillipOnWater here. Did you know that there is a missing passage between 1 Samuel chapters 10 and chapter 11? So if you go to your New King James Version or any version of the Bible, then you'll see that it says at the end of 1 Samuel chapter 10, "And Saul also went home to Gibeah, and valiant men went with him, whose hearts God had touched. But some rebels said, 'How can this man save us?' So they despised him, and brought him no presents, but he held his peace." And then in chapter 11 it begins, "Then Nahash the Ammonite came up and encamped against Jabesh Gilead, and all the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, 'Make a covenant with us, and we will serve you.' And Nahash the Ammonite answered them, 'On this condition I will make a covenant with you, that I may put out all your right eyes and bring reproach on all Israel.'" So that's what it says, but it's unclear as to why Nahash does this. Why does he gouge out the right eye? It seems kind of harsh. Well, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's an extra passage here that's between chapters 10 and chapters 11. So let's take a look at that. So what you're looking at here is Eugene Ulrich's critical edition of the Hebrew of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And as you can see, this is 4Q Samuel A, so that's the name of the scroll. And this is between chapters 10 and chapters 11. You have an extra section here that you don't have in the Masoretic text. So in the Hebrew Masoretic text, you see this is the ending of verse 27, and then chapter 11 begins like this. So the ending of verse 27 is, "Walo heviu lo mincha wayehi kamacharish." And then the beginning of chapter 11 is, "Wayal nachash ha-amoni." And so just from some simple comparison, you can see that the end of chapter 10 ends here, lo mincha, and then the beginning of chapter 11 begins here, actually. So there was a Scrabble mistake, and they included part of the line between the lines, part of the beginning of chapter 11 between the lines. So you have these same words that we just read from the MT. And then between the end of chapter 10 and chapter 11 is this section here of about 3.5, maybe to 4 lines long. And so what does that say? What it says is, "Now Nahash, king of the Ammonites, had been grievously oppressing the Gadites and the Reubenites. He would gouge out the right eye of each of them and would not grant Israel a deliverer. No one was left of the Israelites across the Jordan whose right eye Nahash, king of the Ammonites, had not gouged out. But there were 7,000 men who had escaped from the Ammonites and had entered Jabesh Gilead." So this is a very enlightening piece of information. It tells us, for one, that it was common for Nahash to gouge out people's right eyes, and two, that the 7,000 men that fled from the Ammonites had taken refuge in Jabesh Gilead. And that is why the city was being treated so harshly by Nahash, because he considered them as a stronghold for rebels. Now, this extra passage is not in the Masoretic text or even the Septuagint. It only survives in this Samuel scroll from the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this really goes to show that the Dead Sea Scrolls are really important for us. Now, if you have the New Revised Standard Version, it is the only version that includes this extra passage in the main text of its English translation. Now, there's actually one other piece of information here to this. There's actually a second witness to this text. So not only do we have the Dead Sea Scroll that attests to this extra passage, but also in Josephus, it seems like he is alluding to this passage. He must have had a copy of Samuel that had that passage in it. So you can find this in Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, Book 7, Chapter 5. So in chapter 5 here, it says, "For he put out the right eyes of those that either delivered themselves to him upon terms or were taken by him in war. And this he did, that when their left eyes were covered by their shields, they might be wholly useless in war. Now when the king of the Ammonites had served those beyond Jordan in this manner, he led his army against those that were called Gileadites. And having pitched his camp at the metropolis of his enemies, which was the city Jabesh, he sent ambassadors to them, commanding them either to deliver themselves up on condition that to have their right eyes plucked out, or to undergo a siege, and to have their cities overthrown. So Josephus seems like he is alluding to this extra passage that explains more about why Nahash was doing what he was doing. So if you consider the Dead Sea Scroll as one witness and Josephus as a second potential witness, that's potentially two witnesses to this longer passage. All right, that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and keep seeking the truth.